Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the October Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee meeting to order. First item of business, we need to approve the minutes. I'd like to call on Vice Chairman Commissioner Gooch.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
So motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we need to announce a vacancy on the Codes Enforcement Adjustment and Appeals Board. Now we need to announce a alternate vacancy on Beer Board to fill the unexpired term of Michael Anderson to expire October 2014. Need to announce two vacancies on the Insurance Committee. These are citizens at large vacancies, Bill Sellers and Greg Hall. Now we have a Beer Board membership. We've received a memo from the county attorney. And commissioners, if you recall, I think we asked them, and Mayor, if you have any further information, you can chime in, please, to let us know if it would be a conflict of interest, I believe is how it was worded, if a sheriff's employee of the sheriff's department served on the Beer Board committee. And the synopsis that I got out of that memo was basically there's no statute that prohibits that. However, it could provide certain difficulties in the fact that he would or she would need to recuse themselves if there was any case coming before the Beer Board that maybe that particular officer had worked on. So that is what that memo is on, and you do have that on your iPad, by the way, under Beer Board membership. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments about that item?
Well, personally, I don't, I can almost discuss this in two ways, on a positive way and a negative way. What's the committee think about it? What does the mayor think about it? I really and truly, I like it, but then I don't want to get us in a position where it is a conflict of interest and then you got to bail out of every other case or, it just makes it fuzzy, and I don't like it, that part of it. But I like the point that someone with the sheriff's department is on there. Like I said, I'm torn right in between both of them there.
I think his experience will be very beneficial to the board. But I also see where it's problematic that it may be a problem as far as if his section keeps on investigating beer, stings and stuff like that, it may be a situation that may arise where he may not be able to vote on issues, and with 5 members, and that leaves it to 4 where he will recuse himself. You may have a.
Well, we got 2 alternates also serves on the board.
Yeah. So,
I don't know if there's any action that has to be taken tonight on that. We just asked the county attorney to provide us some information on that because it was an issue last month. It doesn't appear that it's going to be an issue this month. However, it does give us something to think about. I think we do have to keep in mind we appoint people who could possibly have conflicts of interest on other boards and commissions that do recuse themselves if need be. I think maybe the issue on this one is it's only 5 people, so it would be pertinent that the alternates take their role seriously and come to the meetings should anything like that come up. So if there's no other discussion on that, I think we can move on to the next agenda item. It's okay. Next agenda item, we need to fill 2 vacancies on the Beer Board. We have received 2 applications, one from Mr. Jared Barrett and also from Mr. Keith Bratcher. Mr. Barrett is a new applicant. Mr. Bratcher is a reappointment. Mr. Barrett, would you like to address the committee?
Thanks for having me this evening. I currently serve as an alternate on the Beer Board and have filled in several times on the Beer Board, so I'm aware of what's going on and familiar with the issues, so I'd appreciate your vote tonight. Thanks.
And any questions for Mr. Barrett? Sorry. Seeing none, Mr. Bratcher, would you care to address the committee?
Thank you. I currently serve on the Beer Board. I've been on this board for 18 years. I'm currently the chairman, and I've enjoyed serving on this board. It's definitely gotten, I think it's more interesting in the last year or two anyway, so but I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any questions for Mr. Bratcher?
I don't have a question for him, I got a question. So we've got there's one that's reappointment and Mr. Barrett is an alternate. And we've got 2 full appointments, is that what this is?
Mm-hmm.
Where did the opening come from?
I can't answer it. The other one was Mr. William Murray. I don't think he reapplied.
Okay,
I think he, at the, we just had a meeting back last week, and at our last meeting, he gave us a letter indicating that he was not gonna reapply at this time. He had some other issues going on with his family and stuff, so he's not gonna reapply.
Thank you, Mr. Bratcher. Any others, we have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve both applicants.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we need to fill the following vacancies on the audit committee. We have a vacancy of a school board representative, which we've received 1 application from Mr. Blair. We have a vacancy of a road board representative. We've received application from Mr. Bratcher, and then we have one citizen vacancy, and we received 2 applications from Mr. Schroeder and Mr. King. You don't see Mr. Blair.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blair is at a community meeting tonight, and he asked me if I would to thank the committee. He'd be glad to serve again, and he applied.
Very well.
He appreciated the consideration.
Mr. Bratcher, would you care to address anybody on this?
I'm elected to the road board. I serve, represent districts 1, 2, and 3. And of course, y'all know this is a new committee and formed last year. It seemed like the year has passed, but we met several times. So I'm reapplying for the road board representative on this audit committee. So I appreciate your consideration.
Mr. Schrader?
Yes, I'm, live at 676 Cottonfield Lane, and we moved here in 1980. And we've enjoyed living in the community, and I'd like to help it. I'd like to be, for those reasons, I'd like to be on the audit committee. I've been an engineer by trade, and I got a master's degree in 1979 from the University of Dayton, and I attended Virginia Staff College. From an audit standpoint, I was a test project manager at Arnold Air Force Base, and some of those projects had a value in the neighborhood of in excess of $5 million. So $5. I was very accountable for keeping track of the money. I also had the opportunity to serve on various physical audits for engine overhaul lines and engine production lines. So I've got a little bit of audit experience, although it's not quite in the context that you guys are used to thinking of. But the bottom line is I'd like to help, and if there's something I can do to do that, I'd appreciate it. I want to thank you guys for serving our community and for considering us.
Mr. King? Let's see, I don't think he's here. Mr. King, not here. Okay. Any questions for any of the applicants? Sorry, I didn't stop earlier. Given the fact that we have, these are kind of separate positions, we have a motion maybe separating these out to that effect of the road board and school board representatives. And then we can vote on the citizen at large separate.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion to that effect. All those, do we have a second? Okay, sorry, we're just moving right along here. All right, that's a motion to approve Mr. Blair as the school board representative and Mr. Bratcher to fill the road board representative. Motion and a second on that. Any other discussion on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Do we have another motion for the citizen at large position?
I make a motion that we nominate both and vote for one.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll.
Commissioner Black? Commissioner Black?
Excuse me, on Wayne Blair.
No.
Oh, excuse me.
At large.
This is the large member.
What's the names
King
again?
and
Schrader, King.
King and who?
Steve Schroeder.
Steve Schroeder.
Commissioner Farley?
Steve Schroeder.
Commissioner Gooch?
Mr. Schroeder.
Commissioner Jordan?
Mr. Schroeder.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Schroeder.
Commissioner Sandlin?
Mr. Schroeder.
Commissioner Coggin?
Mr. Schroeder. Congratulations, Mr. Schroeder. Mr. Bratcher, Mr. Blair. Next, Commissioners, we have a BZA legal opinion, which we kind of went over at the last commission meeting, but I just wanted to ask Vicki to go ahead and put it on there in case there was any discussion this committee had over it. If you recall, we had a question whether or not we could appoint a county commissioner to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And actually, Mr. McCrary was at the commission meeting and kind of briefed us on that, but basically, he didn't feel that we could because the statute did not tell us that we could, where in other, at least that's the way I understood his explanation, whereas in other boards and committees or commissions, the statute specifically spells out, like on the Planning Commission, that there should be a county commissioner serving on there.
We could change the state statute, but as of right now, we can't do that.
Right.
We'd have to send a resolution to the state.
That's my understanding.
And it'd be an appointed position if we did that, like the Planning Commission.
Okay. Just want to put that on there in case there's any further discussion on that legal opinion. Okay.
Do we need to go ahead and act on this? I'd like to send something to the state in the form of changing it to having at least 1 to 2 elected officials serving on it, since most of it now, since the new comprehensive plan is coming forward, I think with them being in the rural area, I think it ought to be at least elected official serving on that.
Okay.
And also, the term limit of the Board of Zoning right now is sitting at 5 years. In my opinion, I think it's just a little bit too long. And I'd like to bring it up for discussion also, since we're on the topic.
I think this is maybe something you want to work through, and this is something you have to ask your state legislative delegation to do. If you're looking at opinion that he just wrote here in that last paragraph, there's another. The Tennessee Supreme Court held that a local legislative body could not elect or appoint one of its own members to an office over which it has the power of election or appointment as a matter of public policy. So we got a state statute that doesn't allow it. We've got a Tennessee Supreme Court ruling that doesn't allow it. So even if we ask our legislative delegation to make a change, I'm not sure they can override what the Supreme Court has already ruled. So this is a bit complicated on how you might make these changes. So I don't know.
As far as the length on it, does it say anything about how long?
It doesn't say. That's part of the statute. You'd have, when you change the statute, you'd have to change that length of term for, it would apply to every BZA that's in place. So that would be less problematic. But if everybody else wanted to go along with 3 years instead of 5, and all the legislative delegation would vote for that, you could change that. But you're going to have a lot of people that don't want it changed too. So I mean, it's, I don't know how to advise in that this is going to be something that the legislative delegation just won't get their arms around and just say, yeah, we'll do it.
I think instead of moving too swiftly on it, I think we probably need to, if you want, we have our meeting with our state legislators, you can bring it up and ask them, and they may be able to look into it for you.
I think you probably ought to give them a little heads up before you meet with them so they can do their homework and research and get some legal advice from their people.
Because they can ask for an attorney general's opinion and all that stuff as well.
Well, the reason why I'm bringing it up, I know being a rural commissioner, I have a lot of issues that comes up out in my district. And sometimes, you know, with the, you know, the feedback I get from my constituents, and which, you know, I try to honor their wishes. I go up there and go before the board of zoning and let them know how I feel about it. You know, I'm the one who's gonna have to answer to them.
Oh, I agree.
They're appointed.
I agree.
And, you know, and I have all the trust in the world in it, but,
I agree with you on that, Commissioner Blackett. I mean, for an example, I told one of them that was on there before, I wasn't gonna vote for that person because they didn't go up there and listen to me when I went up there, because us as commissioners, we've got to live with what happens out there.
Right,
And,
I agree.
and
That person no longer on that board.
right.
And, you know, 5 years, we're elected 4 years, commissioner. They're appointed for 5 years, and that's,
I know, but I think we need to, before we get to going too fast with it,
right.
I think we need to slow it down and let's get a legal opinion, let's get the legislature, our delegation involved and go through that process and instead of making a quick and decision on it and kind of get some input from them.
Mayor, would this be something we get CTAS involved in on as well?
CTAS has already been involved. They've said no.
Okay.
Is the way I look at the Board of Zoning Appeals is an appeals process.
Mhm.
That someone is appealing a law that we wrote or a regulation. And to me, for a member of the legislature to be on the court that would appeal you wouldn't make much sense. Kind of like a member of Congress being in the Supreme Court, they appealing a law that we write, now we're on the appeals board. To me, that doesn't seem to be prudent.
Well, we're doing the same thing in planning commission,
That's,
but the purpose of it is that every case is pretty much unique in its appeal situation or process. So it's not a cut and dried, you know, yes, here is the ordinance or here is the law that we've written. But in their situation, in a business situation or whatever it may be that they're applying for an appeal on, and in some case it is black and white, that they're circumventing the ordinance and doing this or whatever. But then there's a process to hear those different situations, and so a board, it's not down to one person to make a decision. It's not up to the planning commission director or the mayor or one person, you know, so to speak, to make an approval or denial. That it's up to this board, and so we have to have that process available to hear what the situations are, and sometimes it's out of the person's grasp, and they're locked in. They're between a rock and a hard spot, and so we can go and help those people. It may be only a temporary process for maybe 1 or 2 years for the situation, or it may be just a variance of a few feet on a setback or something. So there's really tough cases and there's really easy cases, and then there's then of course you can just comply with what's written and move on. So, and sometimes that happens too, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I will point out, and of course this was mentioned in what you got from Josh, there is an state attorney general's opinion. It doesn't, not about the BZA, but it's about this very same kind of situation. And based on that opinion, this is the Office of the Attorney General, has concluded that a local legislative body cannot elect or appoint one of its own members to an office over which it has the power of election. So we got an Attorney General opinion from the state. We got a Tennessee Supreme Court opinion. And I think over the next discussion, when you talk about the zoning resolution, you're going to see that the Board of Commissioners still has a substantial part to play. If a zoning of a particular parcel is changed, if you want to change the zoning, it still will come to the Board of Commissioners. It's only when you have a special exception or a use that's going to be different from that whole list of things that are within a zoning designation that it will go to the BZA. But if you change the whole zoning of that parcel, it will come to you at the Board of Commissioners just like it does now for a public hearing. So I think if you can understand that and see that a little bit more, it might help you in the whole thought process as you think through this. You are going to have substantial input in those particular decisions.
Well, I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up, I had a borrow pit just approved, and it didn't get to go before, but everything, fortunately, it worked out with the majority of the folks out that way. But also, I had one back 6-7 years ago that I recommended, and on Jefferson Pike, become a landfill, and that didn't come before the commission. And I went to the Board of Zoning and explained to them what was going on, and it still continues to be an eyesore. So that's one of the reasons I guess I'm concerned about this new comprehensive plan. They're gonna have a lot of power, and that's just my concern. So.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I mean, we will have some issues that will come up, no doubt, no doubt. It's not an ironclad fix-all ordinance. It's not, and there will be things that have come up. It's like the mayor was saying. In the true situation of rezoning, we will have a say. But in your situation where it's already been zoned, and adding a continuing use or an expansion of a use, that's where the rubber meets the road, where we're out.
All we can
I mean,
do is go up.
we can go there. That's still the
we
option.
can go up and make ask polite.
And the whole community can. You know, I mean, we're not saying that, but it's just as far as the commissioners having a say at that point, it's out of our hands. It's in the Board of Zoning Appeals' hands. So we'll just have to stay on those type things, and that's the unease that you have, and as well as I have, and I think some other commissioners may have. But it's just something that we're going to have to try through it and make sure we stay on top of things, and our community does with things that are going on in our community and in our districts.
Very well. Any other discussion? All right, item 8. Next, we need to fill 3 vacancies on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Commissioners, you recognize that it is for 1 member position and 2 alternate positions, and we have received 3 applications, and those being of Jerry Sartain, Jared Barrett, and Michael Rather. Mr. Sartain, would you care to address the committee?
I am Jerry Sartain. I've been on the BZA now since 1992. If you feel like I've done a good job, I'm willing to serve another appointment, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sartain? Mr. Barrett?
I currently serve as an alternate on the BZA, and been doing that for the past year and a half, and I appreciate your first vote for that, and I appreciate your vote again tonight to continue to serve in that capacity. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Barrett?
I got something, all of it.
Okay. For all of them, there's I don't think Mr. Rather. I think he's here. Okay.
My question is, I'll go back to what Commissioner Black was talking about, as a rural commissioner, if a commissioner comes up there and is against something like a borrow pit, what's your opinion on how should you handle that?
I mean, we take it into consideration. I mean, it's your district, and we definitely would weigh that opinion. I would. I'm not speaking for Jerry, but I'm speaking for myself.
I was listening to what you were saying before. In the county, I serve as the vice chairman now, and the county commissioner showing up, giving us his opinion is a big weight, because he represents the people, he knows the complaints. However, sometimes what's popular is not always the law, and so that's sometimes when it goes bad.
Understand that exactly. Been there, done that.
Any other questions for any of the applicants? Seeing none, of course, commissioners, keep in mind there's two different positions here. We have a motion.
Right now, Mr. Barry is the alternate. Mr. Sartain is the, for reappointment. Correct. And Mr. Rather is an alternate.
I believe that's right.
And we only have 3 applicants, correct?
Right.
I make the motion that Mr. Sartain stays as the appointment, and the other 2 are the alternates.
We have a motion to that effect. We have a
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none. All's in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Record shows unanimous. Did we need to call roll on that? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. And I'd I waited till the end. I guess I shouldn't have, but all of you will be recommended to the full commission on October 11th. Thank you. If you would care to be there, you'll be again recommended for your appointment. Thank you all for your interest in serving our county. I guess one last one we do have, appointment of Judicial Commissioner Wanda Watkins. We have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Record so. Next, Mayor, if you want to come on up for these next 2 things. Commissioners, we have time limit for comments at public hearings. At the public hearing, not the public comment time of our full commission, but a public hearing. We talked a little bit about this last meeting, and you've got a memo on your iPad from Josh, I believe. And I know the mayor has worked on this a little bit too, and has maybe a possible solution that doesn't require anything.
I've made a suggestion here to make this a pretty simple little change in your commissioner's handbook. Now, as Commissioner Coggan said, this does not have anything to do with the public comment period. That's a separate piece in your Board of Commissioners handbook, all right? But under this Rule 1L, where we have that little statement where it says public, that's before you, that's in the Commissioner's handbook. And this is my suggestion here to address this and give substantial flexibility, but yet allow either the commission or the chairperson to set a time limit as they see necessary. Sometimes it's not necessary, but if we had a substantial number of people wanting to speak, that would give us now some authority to make this happen, whereas right now we don't have any authority to limit the time. So we can just read this quickly. Members of the public may address the commission by majority vote of the commission members present. That's in our handbook now. And this next sentence is in that same paragraph now, but I left that. It is recommended, however, that such a person make every effort to appear before the appropriate committee of the commission before asking for the privilege to address the commission. Now, this is what I've added. Also, for a scheduled public hearing, any person may address the commission during the hearing. They can do that now. That's the privilege they have. In all cases, whether it's a scheduled public hearing or whether it's just someone that you want to come up and make a statement, in all cases, the commission may set a limit. If you so want to make a motion to set a limit, you can do that. May set a limit on the period of time a person is allowed to speak. If the commission does not do so, then this gives the chairman some flexibility. The chairman shall have the authority to limit the speaker to a reasonable time. This is allowable. There's no statute that says we can or can't do this. Robert Rules of Order says these kinds of limitations are routinely invoked by the chairman typically. So that's sort of my recommendation, that would put something in your handbook that would give both the commission and the chairperson an opportunity to limit these comments that we need from time to time.
It gives the chairman the flexibility to control, not control, may not be the right word, but to fix it where someone gets up there, like we've had one night, we had one person for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and we could tell them that's, it's past the reasonable limit, and we're exercising our presiding authority to say, that's enough now.
So it would be up to the chairman each process to set the rules on
If we
that
came to a
particular.
meeting and we had a packed house and I could see there's at least 100 people who wish to speak, we would announce it at the beginning before the public hearing that I'm, by authority authorized in the Commissioner's Handbook, we're going to allow no more than 5 minutes, 3 minutes, or 10 minutes, whatever we think is reasonable.
It's not basically trying to squelch someone's period of time to be able to speak. They're going to be able to get to speak, but it's trying to make sure that everybody gets a chance that wants to speak to be able to speak.
And the
Should we not address it like we're doing in the public comments now, though, as far as, I mean, everybody knows in public comments, you have 3 minutes, and you're done. And the gavel drops in 3 minutes. You need to sit down. So,
But-
I mean, no, what I'm thinking is if we have one, we treat one group or one situation a little different, and not meaning to, but we gave this group 5 minutes apiece, and we gave this group 3 minutes apiece, or whatever it was on the public hearing. Well, they got 5, we got 3. I'm just thinking that if we're across the board and we set it in black and white now.
But it may be a situation where it may be a group, they may have a spokesperson, and that spokesperson may need 10
I know,
minutes.
that's what I mentioned last month, that, that they could speak for the group, and that's been very helpful in the planning commission as well, so, when you have a
There are other ways to
spokesperson.
do this. This is one of the more flexible ways. If you want to limit it, but once you limit it, you're limited.
I mean, I like the flexibility, I'm just thinking out loud here to the committee and getting some other discussion here. I like it, Mayor, I'm just thinking if, and not meaning to, would be treating somebody else differently.
I think that's okay. I think that happens all the time, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Somebody has a right to use judgment, whether it's, say, you're off point and you're not, this is not relevant, and, the
Gotcha.
chairperson can do that. That's part of what Robert's Rules of Order allows.
The
And if the chairman needs help, we can give you point of order.
You can give point of order.
In a public comment period, the person can talk, as we all well know, about anything that they choose to talk about for 3 minutes. But in a public hearing, they're supposed to be on point on one
Right.
specific item.
Yes.
I don't really see a difference in 3 minutes and, let's say, 5 minutes. That doesn't trouble me. It may trouble you, but it doesn't bother me.
Well, for some folks, 3 minutes is not enough. and an hour's not enough. So, you know, I'm
But it's
to
too
get
much.
everything out, but you know what I'm
It's too
saying?
much, yeah.
Yeah.
In a public hearing kind of situation, as you all one of you just kind of alluded to, if I felt like, if I were a member of a group that wanted to stop something, a zoning of something, let's just say, since we hear a lot of that, and rightly so, that's their job. But if I couldn't make my point in 5 minutes, I think that would be pretty rare, first of all. I think you can make your point and get it done in 5 minutes. But if I couldn't, and if there were a number of things I wanted to discuss or bring up, I would just hand it off after my 5 minutes were up to my neighbor,
Sure.
who can now finish up with his or her 5 minutes.
And that's been done too.
Absolutely,
That's been done.
absolutely. I don't.
We've
see
seen a
problem
lot
with
of creative ways throughout the years on how these things work.
that. Creative, that's unusual work. And what is redundant and not very helpful to one person or one commissioner, another may disagree with that.
I think also, once this new planning zoning ordinance gets passed, we're going to probably see a lot less of those public hearings, possibly.
You're gonna still hear all the zoning change. You're changing the zoning.
I just thought I'd bring that up, Mayor. I just
It's-
we
it's a
want to
good
treat
point.
everybody
We could-
equally, and we, you know,
I think we need
they.
to start somewhere because we really need something.
I agree
Right
with
now,
you.
we don't have any authority
I agree.
to do it. And then we can change it if it's not.
Let's try it this way. Yeah, so we'd change it if we.
If
We
it
need
doesn't
to.
work out exactly, we can always come back. That's an easy thing to change, is that handbook.
I think it gives the chairman the flexibility, and it's not squashing anybody's chance to be able to speak their mind. You know, I like it.
You're a taxpayer. You're a voter. You have the authority to be heard, and we want to hear you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that goes back to BZA. They meet at 4:30. A lot of time these folks can't get off to be there, you know, and they rely upon the county commissioner to go, and you know, and I know we as a commission or board of zoning, they look out there at all the folks. And that gives them an idea, you know, so.
We've changed the time with the BZA.
I don't know whether we can or not, can we? We'll have to go through the state legislature to do that.
That's not a bad question.
I would assume you could change the time.
We have a motion.
I know we did on the planning commission. We changed it to 6, so it'd be more available for the folks getting off. 'Cause most folks get off 4:30, 5 o'clock.
So are you adding what it says from also on, or is that an addition?
Yeah, that's new stuff there.
Okay, I'll move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And next, or last, at least under regular business, request from Records Commission. Mayor?
And Mr. Stevens, I think, is joining us. The Records Commission, through Mr. Stevens, have asked for us to consider a couple of things, only one of which I really think we should consider at this moment in time, but I think, let's see, do we have a copy of the statute attached, I think, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we do.
It's under.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I read it.
That's the County Public Records Commission, and that says how you appoint membership of that group. And what they are suggesting is that we make one change to this. If you'll read down through the text of that, it says, of the 3 appointees, 1 shall be a member of the county legislative body, 1 shall be a judge of the courts of record, and 1 shall be a genealogist. They want to make that judge, make that where that says shall be a judge or a designee of the judge, so that that person, if they can't come, they can send a voting member to participate. And they want to ask our legislative delegation to make this change to this statute, which I don't think anybody would object to that.
No.
They also want to add that another person will be able to serve, and that being a representative or if you have a director of technology in a particular county government, some of them may or may not, if one's available, they won't all have that ability to appoint, but if they do, they want to be able to appoint a member from the county's OIT department to the Records Commission. And I think that's the two things that you wanted to change in that first, and in the actual statute itself.
So would the judge designee be someone from his office then, or would this be?
Yes.
Okay.
Because when you put the word designee, I guess, Mr. Stevens, it could be anybody who so chooses, or she, but I would think it would be only the right thing to do for them to pick somebody that's in their office that knows what's going on in the judge's role.
So should we establish that in there, though, because it could be?
If you read a little farther down, like the county clerk and the register also have the authority to
They
send a
have
designee,
designees.
and it doesn't put any restrictions on who they send. Sometimes they send employees from their office to come to our meetings, so.
Now, you're the commissioner that's on there, on the record?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know who was on it. Okay. I know at one time, I know Ronald Williams was on it, on the past.
He's in the appointment since then. And I guess that's the mayor's appointment. That's the mayor just has to find somebody that's willing to do this.
So you're wanting the judge's designee, and then, what was the other one?
And add, go from 6 members to a 7-member, well, it's really 7 since down at the bottom, the county archivist. Add an additional position.
OIT.
A representative from the OIT department.
I don't have a problem with that.
So we would make this recommendation that we present this to our legislative delegation when we meet with them so they can take it forward and request a change in the statute.
I make a motion, we approve the request.
Second the motion.
Motion in a second. I just wanted for clarification, I heard the designee from the judge and then the representative from OIT. Is that it? I thought you
Yes, sir.
said there were 3 changes.
Just 2 things.
Just 2 things, okay.
But you wanted to say a representative from that, because at first you said the director of technology.
I did.
So do you want it to
Well,
say?
I think Mr. Stevens' language says to add a member from the county's OIT department. So we didn't say it had to be the director.
Okay.
His or her designee, yeah.
But you want it to say a member of the OIT department? Okay.
And then really, I think, Ms. Shelton, we probably should put some language. Well, that's okay, because if they don't have an OIT department, they just couldn't appoint one to that position. So the language would be
How
okay.
about if department is established?
Yeah. But I think we can let them worry about the language in some detail when they get it.
A motion in a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any other business? Thank you, Commissioner Stevens.
We have one more request to send from the Records Commission. The mayor alluded to it a minute ago. Here, give everybody a copy of our minutes for last meeting. If you scroll down to the very bottom paragraph on the first page, the Records Commission recommends that the county adopt a policy to require all county agencies and departments to submit an annual inventory of records, including a list of records that are proposed to be disposed of to the county archivist and to the county's register of deeds in order to effectuate a countywide records management policy. Now, the reason that we felt this was necessary is that for the past few meetings at our Records Commission, and of course here on the County Commission, we have established that Heather Dahlgren's office will be serving as our records manager. At least that's what it appears to me that we've done. We've spent over $200,000 on equipment and hiring someone to be a records manager in her office. And when we have these meetings for the Records Commission, we're just not getting any records disposition requests. It's maybe 2 or 3 at each meeting at the most, and they're usually from the Register of Deeds office, the Circuit Court Clerk's office, or the County Clerk's office. So we have all these departments and agencies that are keeping records, but we're not managing the records, and there's a big difference. The state law gives a definition of what records management is. It's the application of management techniques to the creation, utilization, maintenance, retention, preservation, and disposal of records in order to reduce costs and improve efficiency of record keeping. So right now, we're just keeping records, and it costs money for the taxpayers to keep records. You have to store them, and if you ever have to build a new building or something like this, you've got to have a place to store all these records. What we're thinking on the Records Commission is that if these departments will first, before Heather's office has to go through and scan the records and manage them on the technology, if they'll go through and clean up their departments and give us a list of which records can be disposed of, we can clear those records out. It's not fair that her office would have to both sort through all the records and determine which ones should be thrown away or disposed of properly, and then have to go and scan them and maintain them also, and the microfilm and the technology. This is a very complicated issue, but like I said, we've spent a lot of money so far to start this process, and it only makes sense to me and the other members of the Records Commission that if this is the way we're going to go, then we need everybody to participate and to send us their records that they need to dispose of so we can get rid of them, and she can have an orderly process of starting to scan them and maintain the records for us.
This is just a memo to the director of the department heads to get this going, isn't it?
It's a lot more than that. I heard what he said. I mean, we need a lot more time to sort of have some real good discussion about this. I don't think we're ready to say that the Register of Deeds office is a designated records manager. I mean, that's the first thing Mr. Stevens has just told us. And you have to understand, county government's pretty complex. You all know that. It's a constitutional form of government. We've got elected officials, department heads. Now, the minutes don't reflect anything about elected officials, but his email said this would affect each department and each elected official. I just think we need a little bit more time for those of us that weren't at the Records Commission meeting to have some input into this, including some of our department heads and including our other elected officials, before we make a decision that this is exactly what needs to be done. I agree that everybody should be clearing out those records that they don't need and disposing of them. We all agree with that. And we need to, that's what their intent is, I believe, here. But I want to be sure that's all we're addressing here right now. So I'd just like to beg for a little more time and let us participate in some of their discussions in a little bit more detail and depth, and so we can come together with a comprehensive plan, I think, that will be workable. I'm not saying this is not workable. I just think we need some more time to do our homework. Sure. I haven't done any homework on this until the last few days, you might say.
You okay to maybe put this off till the December meet? Would that give you enough time to look at it?
I don't know when they meet next. I mean,
I think we have a meeting set in November. The state law says that the County Records Commission has the authority to promulgate reasonable rules and regulations, and it goes through and gives a list of things that the Records Commission can do, and some of those are procedures for compiling and submitting to all county offices lists, schedules, or timetables for disposition of particular records, and standards and procedures for the reproduction of records for security or for disposal of original records in all county offices. The Records Commission can promulgate these rules on its own, but I think that we kind of wanted the full commission to have a say and be involved with the process. But what's really brought it up is that at our meetings, we're just not getting hardly any requests for disposition of records, which means boxes and things, or filing cabinets are full of records, some of which can probably be shredded or disposed of that we don't have to maintain anymore. And when you have boxes and file cabinets that are full of unnecessary records, you can't do maintenance on your buildings. It's taking up space. We have more departments that need more space, and when you've got things we don't have to keep cluttering up offices, then it's just costing the taxpayers more money and making it harder for the employees. So that's where we're coming from with it.
Sounds like a good idea, I just did not think that,
Yeah.
just trying to get the mayor a little more time to kind of get with the department heads and try to get everybody to buy into it. I think that's what you're asking, is that right?
Yeah. Well, you got countywide elected officials too that have been doing their own process of this, and so, like the mayor said, I believe, the security, just even for the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's the main one.
that's a big deal. And then, Lisa Crowell's office, the property assessor's office, you take, you know, they're doing theirs on an ongoing basis, you know. Would we like them to buy into this, what we're doing? Yes. So I think we give the mayor a little time here and try to get it figured out and get them on board and carry on with it. I think at the end of the day, we'll have probably everyone to probably buy in on it. But then we're not forcing them to jump in right now within messing up the process they have going.
You need a motion to that effect to postpone it for a month or two, or
I'd
just
be glad
ask
to
the
make
mayor
a
to bring
motion
it
to
back?
postpone until December, and I'd give the mayor a little time here to get judicial commissioners and everyone involved on board, or a synopsis to bring to us anyway. I say our December meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. You have that? Okay. Any discussion on that motion?
Is that enough time, Mayor?
Yes.
Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any other business?
Thanks, Commissioner.
No ham breakfast? No. I'd like the camera to make sure they get all these wonderful Leadership Rutherford people on here so that Stephanie will know that they were here. She won't give them a hard time. They got their card signed, everything's good.
Mr. Chairman, we've got Robert Stevens here as well as a member on this redistricting committee thing. I watched just a little bit of it the other night. Are y'all about ready to bring something to us, or y'all still discussing? I didn't see the end, and I apologize, but I was seeing some good talk and stuff.
I think the chairman, what I've seen, the chairman's coming to the full commission to kind of update us.
Because I serve on that committee.
Yeah.
He is, I think, Commissioner Phillips, I think he's either going to bring it before the hearing, or I don't know. I don't know. I think he's going to give it to the mayor, said he need to bring it before the hearing or back to the full commission. But I think we do have a couple of scenarios that we're checking on some of these.
So y'all have approved a plan, and then sending to us a,
I think we have sent some recommendation of a couple of scenarios.
okay,
for you all to
okay,
consider.
okay, thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
But it's bypassing this committee, this body.
I don't know, I didn't hear all the meeting either. I thought the minutes reflected he was going
He's
to,
going to talk to
he's
you.
going to talk to me, and I thought he was going
Okay.
to present it to the full commission.
I
Well,
think
they
he said
discussed-
November, didn't he?
But their next meeting is not till November
Okay.
themselves.
They discussed steering, but he was going to talk to you and then I think present it to the commission.
He hasn't, I haven't talked
To
to
see
the
what you
chairperson.
wanted
He hadn't
to
been
do.
to see me.
Okay.
And I'm awaiting sort of the minutes to see what they said during their meetings.
I guess he's just gonna be giving information.
I think
From
so.
the last, he's not gonna make
I
no
don't think there's a recommendation.
recommendation.
That was my take. But listening to the piece I listened to, it was not a recommendation yet.
Right.
Well, so the commission can see the issues of where the road
Okay.
board, school board people are and how it falls out and when you should incorporate it.
As long as it, I think it needs to come back before steering, before the recommendation. But
All right. Move to adjourn. Thank you.
Kind of severe weather.